Hey, so I haven't made a video in kind of a long time. A lot of stuff has happened since the summer when I posted the long Chris Cornell video. So I've been wanting to kind of make this video for a while, talking about kind of changing your plan in life, whether you went to college or you didn't go to college and are trying to figure out what you're going to do. Sometimes it's kind of nice to hear people's stories and know that you're not alone in, being indecisive or changing your mind or just not knowing at all. This is basically just a talking video. I'm going to talk about some of my experiences and, how things are working out for me. If anybody else out there is feeling the same way and is going through the same thing, it'll kind of be comforting to them to know that, it's completely okay. Like, that is the most important thing to stress, is it's okay not to know. Not to know what you want to do today, not to know what you want to do tomorrow, not to want to know what you want to do the rest of your life. It's okay. To give some background on myself, when I was in high school, I decided what I wanted to go to school for. I read a book called Girl Interrupted, and there's a movie with it too, but it's originally a book. It is a self-memoir about herself and her mental illness and her experience going to a mental hospital. I had an intense interest in it, and I started reading more and more about psychology. In my sophomore year of high school, I kind of had already decided that I was interested in forensic psychology. So my junior year, my high school, it was really cool that they offered these classes. They had AP psychology. They also had forensics as an elective. So I took both. I just thought it would be really cool to be that person who gets summoned to court to give their expert testimony on whether they believe someone is fit to stand trial or, not guilty by reason of insanity. So by my senior year, I was applying to colleges as a psychology major. I intended on double majoring in criminology and psychology. My intention by the time I was in college was I really, really, really wanted to go into the FBI. I know that it's an extremely selective process, so I was working really hard in school. I have been really, 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 really well behaved the entire time I've been at school. The only thing I do and have done is drink. But, not excessively. I've never gotten in trouble or anything for it. At the end of my sophomore year, my uncle passed away, and then a month and a half later, I had to put my dog down that, we had for 15 years. So it was just very devastating. I kind of went through a stage of grieving where I couldn't even really see into the next week. And it was kind of scary because I was going to be seeing Guns N' Roses reunion, which is something I've waited for my entire life, and I didn't even feel excited for it anymore. Friends always say, Lauren's the planner, because I'm very strategic. For me to not be able to see into the next week was kind of scary for me. The whole experience, that grieving process, they kind of put me into this take everything day by day mindset that I hadn't had before. I was always worried about what was coming next my whole life. During that time, actually right before the first Guns N' Roses concert I saw, I started writing for Alternative Nation. I always liked writing. I always found it very cathartic. Throughout high school, and middle school actually, I had an online journal that I would just type in just to get my thoughts out. My freshman year of college, I started a blog. There's actually a video on my channel about it, a music-based blog, as most of my videos since then have been music-related. Would write about how I felt about music, the concerts I had been to, how I feel alienated from my own generation because I am into so much older stuff than, everybody else is. I like classic rock. I like grunge. I like The Doors. I like all these things that, nobody my age, not nobody, but most people can't really relate to. I thought that rock was dying. I thought that it would just be impossible to make a career in the music industry, even though, my whole life, music has been one of the most important things in the world to me. Sometimes I prefer to just sit in silence, sit by myself and listen to music than to be in somebody else's company, just because sometimes I feel like the music understands me more than the people I'm surrounding myself around. Not to say anything about the people, it's an internal connection that I feel with the music that's extremely heavy. I started writing for Alternative Nation. I just did a couple of articles, and I spoke to some people at the Guns N' Roses concerts and made videos about it. I wrote a couple articles about the Pretty Reckless, and, Taylor Momsen retweeted them, and, she started following me, and And all these little things just started lining up. I got approved for review tickets to see the Pretty Reckless, which I was very excited about. I got comp tickets for Sublime, for Bush, for Voodoo Festival my junior year. So my junior year of college is kind of when everything started changing. I kind of slipped into a funk because my fall semester I had 14 exams. My heart just wasn't in it anymore. I didn't want to go back to school after all the things that had happened over the summer at all. My junior year, I was just in this funk because I was like, the only thing that really is making me feel myself anymore is music and concerts. And here I am studying for policing strategies for an exam, and I don't even want anything to do with that anymore. I was having this internal struggle because something that I did love and had planned on doing for so long, I was falling out of love with. You're already into the middle of your junior year. You can't switch your major now. You can't keep going to school. School's too expensive. This, that. So the spring semester of my junior year, I actually had like a volunteership. It was only once a week for 8 weeks at the state hospital in Florida. So it's a psych hospital. I was hoping this would kind of get me back into the swing of things and, keep me on track with my major and my career choice for afterwards. And I did like it. I did enjoy it. There were times where I felt a little uncomfortable, and I felt that, you can't really be feeling that way if you're going to make a career out of something like that, because you need to be thick-skinned and, emotionally detached in order to have a job in that kind of field. I felt like I had wasted time. I had wasted money that I was investing myself into something that I didn't really fully have my heart and soul in anymore. And there was something else that's just pressing and just opening all these unfolding opportunities in my lap, but I don't know how to tackle them, and I don't know how to begin to try to transition into that field. I ended up pushing my entire junior year, trying to get an interview with the Pretty Reckless, and finally, when I got approved for Welcome to Rockville, after being so persistent with their publicist, he gave me an interview. And I remember I was out that day for the spring football game, and I couldn't put my phone down. Actually, the week before, I had been approved to interview Seether as well. So, Welcome to Rockville changed my life, basically. I got to meet people in the press tent. I met some people from the Pretty Reckless's label. They told me their stories about how they got into the music industry. They told me the struggles. They told me how hard you have to work and how persistent you have to be in order to get to a position where what you say is going to matter. I was talking to Taylor, and I was like, I like what I'm doing in school, but I just feel like this is the type of environment that I'm going to be flourishing in. Chris Cornell passed away a few weeks later. I went to Rock on the Range. I met another guy who was Breaking Benjamin's tour manager at one point, and he took down my contact information. And I just the more festivals I was attending and events, the more I started networking. And basically, over the summer after Welcome to Rockville, I had completely and entirely decided I am not going to pursue a career field in my major. And it took a lot of mental struggle and, internal debating to get me to the point where I was able to finally admit to myself that I am not going to die happy unless I try to work in music. If it doesn't work, okay, awesome. I have a double major degree to fall back on to have a more stable job. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So today, you should be doing everything that you can to make yourself feel happy and fulfilled. You weren't going to work every day being miserable. Over the summer, I also started working with a label. Right now, it's just online, but they're based out of Fort Lauderdale, and it's with a Miami band called Deaf Poets and another band called Anastasia Mack. A lot of work for Deaf Poets, researching venues and bands and publications and sending out press releases. So, I got a little bit of hands-on experience, and I'm still with them now. They're called Wax Romantics Records in Fort Lauderdale. You should definitely check them out. Deaf Poets are great. I did an interview with them for Alternative Nation as well. And so I'll link that below. And you should definitely check out their music. It's on Spotify. So with that being said, in the spring, I applied for an internship at a law firm. This entire fall semester, I have been working at a law firm, and it is a great place. There are great people there. They're awesome. It would be the ideal, perfect environment for someone who was either trying to go to law school or become a paralegal or anything. It would be great. But because by the time I had got back to school already, I had already decided that this wasn't what I was going to do anymore. It was just every morning has not been fun waking up. Work isn't always going to be fun. Work isn't supposed to be fun, but you're supposed to like it. It was a good experience, and it did help solidify in my decision that that's not what I want to do anymore. Last weekend of September, first weekend of October, that area, I went to another music festival that is by Monster Energy and Danny Wimmer presents, and called Louder Than Life in Louisville, Kentucky. I interviewed the singer from Greta Van Fleet. I was ecstatic about that because my dad told me about Greta Van Fleet, and I was like, wow, like they're really good. Like nothing really sounds like them nowadays. He was really cool. The interview was great. It's on Alternative Nation, so I will provide the link to that below. Actually ran into Mark Damon from The Pretty Reckless, and came up to me, gave me a big hug, caught up. I showed him my Audio Slave tattoo, asked how they're doing. But I have been actively applying for open positions that I've found for, you know, the music business. Long story short is a lot of places aren't even looking for what your degree is anymore. They're looking to see that you were actively, you know, trying to gain experience while you were in college on top of taking classes, because that shows work ethic, and getting good grades at the same time. Obviously, you don't want to, you know, show any kind of slacking. Experience is just the main, most important thing. And at this point, the experience that I've gained almost outweighs what my major is. Ever it may be, if you're not going to college and you're just working other jobs in the meantime to try to make ends meet, like, you know, I applaud you, keep doing you. But, you know, once you figure out what your gut is telling you, because at some point you will. You may not think that you're going to, but there will be a day where you're going to wake up and this light bulb is going to go off in your head, and you're just going to be amazed, because it's a really, really reassuring feeling knowing that you feel like you have a purpose. You just have to go for it. You have to be willing to not make a lot of money. You have to be willing to work for free sometimes. Be willing to put yourself out there. You gotta definitely leave your comfort zones. You know, you have to be willing to network and introduce yourself to people and make sure that they remember you. Don't be afraid of rejection, because you're going to get it. I promise. You're going to be rejected. You're not going to be answered, or you're going to be turned down. It's going to happen. That's just how life works. You know, there's only so many positions, and there's so many people trying to fill them. So you have to look inside yourself and figure out what makes you stand out against those other applicants, and you have to sell that. It's definitely okay to be afraid. It's okay to be upset about it. I openly admit to all of the internet, whoever's watching, I was depressed my junior year because I felt like my life was spiraling out of control, because I didn't want to do what I thought I wanted to do anymore. It's all about just trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, and believing in yourself. The way I look at life is you have to live it selfishly while loving the others around you. So you have to put yourself first. And if you think that someone or something is more toxic for you than it is good, and it's not going to lift you up and help you get to your end goals, then you need to get rid of it. And goals are another thing. You should always be striving for more. Always strive to do the next best thing. Always strive to be the best you could possibly be. Don't settle. There's always room to do better, and there's always room to do more. People aren't supportive of your decisions. It's not their life. It's yours. And you only have one to live. A human that I love that didn't believe in himself enough to stick around once said, "To be yourself is all that you can do." So I wish you all the best of luck with your journeys, and I hope that everything works out for you.